My name is Hash Buddha. My friends call me Hash. I mainly take care of governance and kind of the legal and operational aspects of Printer Financial, so really kind of the real world side of things. I guess I'll do a quick intro for Tigger and Pumpkin as well. Tigger is our tokenomics expert. He really came up with our new tokenomic structure, which I'm sure Atlas will talk a bit more later as well. And then we have Pumpkin. She's really the heart of Printer, so to say. She manages everything and everyone and just makes sure the ship stays on track and people are aligned. Then we also have Cletus and Disa, who are both kind of our ambassador leaders and really organizing a lot of AMAs with different chains that we're planning to launch on, with different projects. Um, yeah, Atlas, if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
Yeah, I think that's good. You may have missed Drew, who is our front end guy. So he's a recent addition to the team, which is why if you go to our website now, it's kind of hack and slash. We have a brand new site coming online, and that's all of his work there. But yeah, and I'd also be amiss if I didn't mention the community. So first and foremost, we're a community-driven project, and our community is very helpful with suggestions, work they put in. So yeah, shout out to the community itself.
Yeah, I can actually see that one of our Treasury Council counselors has joined the audience as well. So we have also recently set up a community Treasury Council of 5 members who will also be part of the multi-sig and really to be set up for a multi-chain future.
Yeah, that's awesome. The community is definitely the backbone of every good, solid project, and I like that you guys put the community first. And it does sound like you guys have a pretty well versed team, a lot of different people filling a lot of different roles that are all much needed in this space. So that's awesome to hear. So let's dive into kind of the tokenomic side of things, and then we can dive into the bridging aspect that you guys are bringing to the table. So what is your I guess when did you launch? What was your initial supply? Kind of how did all the money flow through your ecosystem, and then how does that benefit holders? How does that benefit the project? You guys as the team, get into all that fun stuff.
So we launched originally February 2nd was our first launch on Phantom. And uh, I think the Binance was then launched 3 weeks later. And then we were pretty much on a 1 to 2 week interval between launching all the other chains. As for the tokenomics, our two main tokens are Ink and Paper. Paper is the token that can freely travel the bridge on a 1-to-1. So that's the utility token for the bridge mechanism. So you have 100 paper on Phantom. You want to drive that over to BSC. You just click through and it's there. Ink is the governance token, and that's the token that you would hold if you want to share in the rewards of the platform. The way that the Ink token holders are rewarded is via voting. So what chains we launch on, what the project does, any changes, any additions, those all go through votes. So if you look at our snapshot.org profile, you'll see pages and pages of voting. We love to vote. Ink holders, when getting rewarded, what they currently get rewarded is in shares of paper, and that goes on an emission schedule that pretty much linearly ramps up with the Ink token supply over 12 months. And then that has a decaying effect, and each chain has a treasury, which all revenue comes in. So our auto compounders, cross-chain auto compounders are launching pretty imminently. Everything's ready to go on the back end. We're just touching up some of the front end stuff. And that revenue goes into the treasury, and that's what then goes to support payments into the Ink holders. as that paper supply emission decays. There is a cap of 5 million paper per chain that will ever be emitted per chain, and that's over a 3-year period. So slowly decreasing after the 1-year linear ramp up with the ink supply. And in order for the ink holders to still, share in those rewards, that's transitioned over from Treasury supported. And the Treasury is completely community ran. So we have voting for the Treasury counselors, and they come up with proposals, how the Treasury is going to be used, what's going to happen. And then they present that to the community for the final yes or no vote. And that's the basics.
Gotcha. I also noticed there's a lot of staking different opportunities there with LP tokens, ink, and paper. Could you go into a little bit about how those work and how they kind of interact with each other?
So we have the paper native, we have the paper ink, we have the ink native, and then we have what we call the printer. The printer is where ink holders would stake in order to share that revenue. They would be then getting the paper emissions and the emissions then from the revenue through the treasury. The first three, the paper native, ink paper, ink native, those are the liquidity pools. So right now, the majority of our liquidity is community owned, so they're staking them themselves. Part of our emission changes that were voted on and approved, we're actually going to be removing the ink native. The idea behind that is ink is really something that should not be freely traded. That's something that is, the equity share in the project, and increased rewards are going to be put onto the paper native token, because the backbone of the project is that liquidity when we're talking about bridges. In the late, short to early midterm, we're looking to add, for instance, any token to any token swapping. So having a deeper liquidity in the paper native is kind of crucial for that. So you can go from, say, 2 on Phantom with one click have, BNB on Binance, and you don't have to go to multiple swap sites and that sort of thing. So effectively, it'll be a lot cheaper to do that, especially across chain. And then again, those swap fees that we do collect go into the treasury, and then get distributed to the ink holders, bringing revenue into the system. So we're really trying to incentivize more that native pool, and we're also trying to build up our protocol-owned liquidity through a few different initiatives. One is being selling your LP tokens into the protocol, which then get locked into the protocol forever in order to get paper on new chains that we launch on to get those early higher emissions in ink on the new chains. So we kind of give a bonus for locking those tokens up for people that want to be vested earlier in the new chain launches.
Gotcha. I think that's a really cool incentive that would really help the protocol, expand faster and more stably. I know providing liquidity on new chains isn't exactly the easiest thing. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys probably know a lot more about this than I do, of course, but I can't imagine
Been
it's.
learning.
What's that?
We've been learning.
Yeah,
So
I bet.
every launch is an iteration. So we always try to do better the next time than we did the previous.
Yeah, I definitely like that mindset. It's the way to go. And then one last thing on the liquidity pools before we move on to the bridging as a service. I know you guys have pretty high APRs. You touch up a little bit on that and why you guys I chose such a high APR or APY, and then also if you guys plan on lowering that. So I know looking at your chart, I think I'm looking at the right token, but it looks like it caused some damage to the price.
So the the APR is really it's not something that the protocol, creates that number. It's not a configuration option that we have. That APR is solely based on the emission of ink, which is 12 months linearly, the price of the paper, and the price of the ink. So whatever that APR is what the market decides it should be. If the price of ink were to go up, that APR would go up. If the price of paper were to go down, that APR would go up. So that's really, market mechanisms there. When we do our tokenomics changes, the APR is actually going to go higher in the paper native LP, but that doesn't mean any more ink is going to be emitted. So there's 100,000 ink per chain that is not bridgeable. It stays on the chain that it's at, and that ink then gets a say in what happens on that chain, as well as anything that affects the project globally across all chains, and shares in the revenue generated from that chain. So I think right now we basically grown organically. And we did a stealth launch with Phantom, so we really didn't put too much hype out there. What we were trying to do is prevent a hype pump and dump during that crazy DeFi season, and have the token skyrocket and crash before we had a chance to get the vision out. So we're at the point now where the bridge is launched. We're on multiple chains. People can come in, they can see the vision, they can use it. They can get actual utility off of that. So I think as more and more people find out about this project, those APRs are going to go down. One thing that most projects, especially these Titanos or these sheer Ponzi projects, they have these insane APRs, but you can't sell your tokens for that same APR. So it's not an effective APR. But I like to think that with the utility that we're bringing, and real DeFi utility, not creating NFTs that you can mint for extra boost. I don't consider that utility. I do consider cross-chain transfers of value, cross-chain auto compounders, any-to-any swaps. That I consider that as utility. So as people discover that utility, the people that are in early are going to benefit more. But I think as we get more into the market, that's what's going to make those rates go down.
Gotcha. That definitely makes sense. And I was just a little concerned that you guys were offering a 600% APR or whatever it was on the website, and like just another rebase project that's gonna crash and burn like all the other ones do. Because like you were saying, utility, if it's in your own ecosystem, is it really utility though? And then once you branch out of that's when like the outside revenue comes in. That's when protocols actually benefit, versus if you're just paying out your own token and then have NFTs to boost those rewards. Like that's just inflating the supply, and then effectively that doesn't actually benefit the holders. So I like that you guys are thinking about that. And yeah, so let's move on to the bridging aspect of it. So what kind of got you starting on building this bridge? What makes you better than the other bridging services out there? And then also, how does it kind of integrate with the paper and ink tokens?
Yeah. So I created the bridge because I was tired of all of the existing solutions. So I don't know how many times you've been stuck with that intermediary any token liquidity, especially when there's big market movements and liquidity disappears from chains, and then you're stuck with these untradeable tokens until liquidity builds back up on the other end, and trying to find out what tokens do I have to swap into in order to bridge, where's the liquidity. So this bridge was really developed with the idea to solve the cross-chain liquidity issue, which I think most people are familiar with. Also, the slowness. I don't know how many times people use a bridge for the first time, and it could take quite a bit of time and you don't know if you just lost your funds. I know I was pretty nervous the first time I tried the bridge. And then also the high fees. So the bridges that exist now, they're for people that are transferring a lot of money across, you know, it a minimum, like a $5 minimum per bridge. That's not bad if you're transferring, thousands of dollars. But what if you only have 10 or 15? Does that mean that you're not worthy to go cross chain? So we're really trying to bring that utility to everybody, not just catering to the whales. The second question, how did the ink and the paper relate to the bridge? It's the paper token that is what travels across the bridge. So it works by a burn mechanism. When you send, say, 1,000 paper from AVAX into Harmony, those 1,000 papers on AVAX disappear. They're burned forever. They're then newly minted on Harmony. So the amount of paper across all chains stays static during bridging. There's no increase or decrease. And ink is just, like I said earlier, that's just a way to, the governance for the protocol to have an ownership in it and to share in the revenue.
Gotcha. Let's jump into those revenue sources. So if I'm holding the ink token, how can I expect to benefit from these revenue sources? Like, are you doing like a profit sharing mechanism with the bridging as a service, or I guess what are your plans there?
Yeah, so that all goes into the treasury on whatever chain develops those revenue sources. So if you have Phantom Inc. and we have a lot of bridging services from Phantom, maybe projects that some are going to BSC, some are going to Harmony. The revenue that's generated from that chain goes into the treasury. The treasury is managed with the direction to support the ink holders. And again, that's all community voted. So it's recommended by a team of elected counselors who, they do the hard work of vetting different investment strategies and all of that, but then the final approvals through the community itself. We did a pretty long video just on those tokenomics. You can find that on our YouTube. I think if you just go to our YouTube page, you'll be able to see it on one of the latest release, and you can see that the paper on a brand new chain, the paper is what's given as rewards. So the 5 million that's per new chain, and that's to get the chain kickstarted because the treasury is still young. It's not developed yet. There is no revenue probably coming in from that stream. As we build up the compounders and all of that. And then it gets transitioned into, ideally it would be a static reward. So as the emissions tailor off after the 12 months, then that would be made up by the treasury. If the treasury is doing very well, the community may vote to increase the distributions from the treasury. So it's really based on each individual chain, how much revenue is coming in there. But that's what goes to then support the ink holders.
Interesting. So without all of the chains being connected with each other, what if one chain performs terribly and there's like no revenue coming in? Is there any support that chain could get from the other chains that maybe are seeing more success?
Yeah, so if you look at I believe it's in the white paper, one of the other mandates is for the treasuries to also support other chains. Now, it's not their main function. Their main function is to support the chain that they're on. But in an event like that, yes, we do expect the other chains to support maybe a weaker performing chain. Maybe not to the level of the other chains themselves, but kicking them in some help. If a chain is just completely flopping and failing, there's always that risk. And there's always a risk of a chain completely going under. Like let's take Luna for an example.
Yeah.
That chain's gone. So that is a risk. But with us being a cross chain project, it's like you would never put your eggs all in one basket. With any projects. So you can think of every chain that we're launched on. We have people that are on all of them. So, that's the risk reward, that decision you have to make personally.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Makes a lot of sense, and I think that should put a lot of investors at a little ease of mind that you know something like a Terra Luna event couldn't just shut down their entire investment. So definitely, definitely pros there. But as far as like once somebody does use the bridging as a service, is there like a fee on those bridges that you would generate revenue through, or is it just the initial setup?
Yeah, we would take a small fee on that. So our bridge will remain free because, like I said, that's our infrastructure and how we're going to build, utility on top of that. And, that's our in-house bridge. We don't want the fees off of the bridge. We want to use the bridge to create many different utilities that can benefit from that cross-chain advantage. And so our bridge will be zero fees. You just pay the gas. And in the future, currently we're only charging gas on the source chain. We will be moving gas to both chains, especially when we move to Ethereum. There's no way that we could stay afloat if we're paying all of the Ethereum gas. And if you want to
Yeah,
go there, that's fine. You're paying the gas. So,
yeah, I suppose that's
but
fair.
for other people, yeah. But for other projects that want to use the bridge, there will be a swap fee, yes. But I can tell you it's going to be very competitive. So and the fact that if you go with one of the traditional, liquidity needing bridges, even if you wanted to get on, like, let's say a multi-chain, you're basically having to duplicate your liquidity, because not only do you need your liquidity for your swap pairs on your DEX, but you'll also need duplicate liquidity on the bridge itself. And you have to make sure that you have that liquidity on all the chains you're on. Otherwise, people again would be stuck with intermediary tokens.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like a solid plan. I like the reoccurring revenue model for sure, and I do see that that is definitely a much needed service in the DeFi space. I know that a lot of projects, like me personally, I put a poll out to my community probably 3 or 4 months ago, asking them what chain we should launch on. It's split 50-50, Polygon and Binance. So if we would have had the option then to use both of the chains, then we could obviously contribute to your revenue model through the reoccurring revenue, but also benefit us through being able to reach new audiences, so people that would want to use Polygon and people that would want to use the Binance Smart Chain, and then also create arbitrage opportunities. Like the business model as a whole, I just really like it. So kudos to you guys. That is awesome.
Yep, thank you. And not to mention that if you were also vested in the bridge, it's a community bridge. So not only that, but you would benefit from those revenue streams in your project itself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Even more incentive for somebody to want to use your guys' service. That's great.
Yeah. We didn't take any startup money, any pre-sales, anything, all, a completely fair launch. So we don't have that overhead to pay back, these big VC guys who may have dropped, millions or whatever on us. So, the community really owns this project. Now, we didn't sell it out.
Yeah, I definitely like that model. That's similar to what we did too. So definitely agree with you there. One question I had would be, what is your hardest thing, like your biggest hardship that you've had along the way of creating this bridge?
Okay, so technology-wise, I mean, I'm good with that. I've been doing it for decades. Started programming at a very young age as a hobby. I've done the code monkey, I've done operations, I've transitioned to the DevOps, server security. I've done it all. Management, agile. I was an agile coach for a while. I don't recommend it, but um, so I have all of the back end things. It was relatively easy for me. There wasn't much issues. Some of the chains cause a little quirks. So as we move across chains, we do get to discover these little quirks. But that was the reason behind the gas station that we have, which I can't forget to talk about. The gas station allows you to burn some paper to get gas on any chain, even ones that we're not launched on. fully, just ones that we have the gas station launched on it. And we're adding a bunch new chains now, probably over this weekend. And that's kind of the test that we use internally to see how chains interact before we deploy the full bridge, because it uses the same technology in the back end. The only difference is the tokens. So you burn paper and you get native tokens on the other end. So yeah, one of the interesting things was working with different chains, but I think the hardest thing was the front end, because that's what I don't do. I could do everything but front end, but we now have that pretty well covered now.
Gotcha. I like it. Solving the problems that come up. Definitely very important to continue to be able to adapt to all the different struggles along the way, because there are so many different things that pop up left and right that are new, and then you haven't experienced it before. And I like that you guys are able to adapt, through adding your front end developer on your team, for example. So
Yeah, that was the hardest. I mean, we must have reviewed over 100 applications. So,
wow.
and it was, yeah. I mean, I'm a little picky when it comes to technology. So I mean, I have to admit that, but I didn't want to hire just anybody. Um, so who we brought on, I'm very happy with, and they've actually proven themselves. So I'm amazed by the code that they've written. It's great. It's extendable. It's beautiful. It's clean. It's slim. All of the things it should be.
Nice. That's how you do it. Let's talk about the gas station a little bit. I know you mentioned that you don't want to forget to talk about it, so
Yeah. So that's basically. I don't know how many times you've ran out of gas on a chain. Especially you know when you really needed it. Maybe you see an opportunity and bam, you're stuck without gas. And like, geez, okay, yeah, I got all of these different bridges. I got all of these different ways to get funds in, but I can't do anything with USDC on the other chain. I don't have any gas. If there's still liquidity there for USDC, let's say you don't get stuck with any tokens, what do you do with that USDC? It's just sitting there. So this allows you, any chain that you have funds on, or any chains that you have paper on that were launched on, you can send gas from there. So AVAX, Crow, Harmony, Polygon, Phantom, Binance, if you're on any of those chains, you can send gas to wherever you're trying to go and get unstuck. And that's available for anybody. Just buy some paper and one click and you got gas.
yeah, I like that a lot. I've had that experience a few times. Not exactly a good experience.
Yeah, you have to go Discord begging and then dox your wallet.
Yep, that's exactly what I did, and it worked, but it wasn't exactly fun. Took a little bit, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, so this is a way to get unstuck. And I think that's very important as we're on so many chains, especially when we're bringing a new chain online. Most of our community won't have any experience of it. So they do need that easy onboarding. And which also brings another good point that, as we add all these new chains, there is this opportunity for our community to experience new chains, experience new opportunities. And as we add these other these other utilities, such as the auto compounders, you get to a brand new chain, you don't know what's going on in that chain. It's the first time you've ever been there. So if there was a set of core utilities that are already deployed, part of the project you're already familiar with, part of the same interface you're already familiar with, it gives a really easy onboarding to these new chains.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense for sure. One, just like off the top of my head, the closest competitor of yours that I could think of would be Elk Swap, and with their ability to transfer gas to your wallet along with the tokens that you bridge. Where do you
Yes.
guys kind of stand with them as far as competition goes? Like, why would you think that you would be better than them and could outcompete them?
I think they stopped at the bridge. And our motto, our philosophy is the bridge is just the highway that we built. Now we can build the things on top of that infrastructure. So whereas, you know, they may be more the bridge as the final end all. Our mindset is the bridge is just the very beginning. That's the core that we now build on top of.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely makes sense. I think you are correct there with how they are operating. We do have one question in chat. CYPG says, I'm not sure if this has been asked. Sorry if it in advance if it has. Using the bridge and moving cross chain does not seem privacy preserving. For example, someone tracking my wallet on chain A can easily track me to chain B since both use the same wallet address. Is that correct? Are there any plans to implement privacy preserving features moving liquidity cross chain?
No, that's it. We're not a tumbler. That's not our goal. I think that opens up a whole can of worms we don't really want to touch. So it's the same as any other cross-chain bridge anywhere where yes, you can. It's blockchain. You can trace all of that unless you go through a specific tumbler. And we're not really catering to the people that want to hide their funds through obfuscations. So there's really no plans to add a tumbler.
Gotcha. I think that makes sense for sure.
Uh,
I mean,
the bridge already does support sending to a different wallet, so it's not enabled yet, but we will be enabling that. So you can send either gas to somebody else or another wallet you have, or bridge paper to another wallet you have. But yeah, no, that's still traceable if somebody wants to dig in for sure.
gotcha. Yeah, I think that blockchain is meant to be traceable, So I think that you guys are correct that it is a can of worms. If you were to open up, then you could be viewed as these people that are, these sketchy guys trying to hide other people's fraudulent activities. And is that really something that's worth getting into? Probably not. But again, that's totally up to you. So
Yeah,
there's,
not something we want to touch.
yeah, yeah. What are your guys' marketing plans for this service?
Yeah, so we just recently started buying a lot of banner ads places. We do a lot of AMAs. So if you check out our Discord or our docs, so if you go to our web page, click on docs, it'll pull up the Git book, and you can see all of our past AMAs. We do many of them. So we do a lot of community outreach, linking up with communities just like yours. And I think that's the main way that we've been kind of introducing people to the project. We will be doing more AMAs, so more of our team will be going out because my time's going to be limited then. We also have our ambassadors that go out and try to make these different community connections. So Cletus and Diza, they're great with that, and that's the main way that we're trying to market this. So we're leading with the utility and just trying to get the word out via doing these sort of AMAs as the main way, but also, advertising, trying to do it smartly. We're not too interested in paying large sums of, either cash or token to these YouTube influencers, because what tends to happen then is, and not all of them, but some of them have their mentality is, yeah, I'll take tokens, pay me tokens. They hype it up to their community, sell at the top, so you see these big pumps and crashes. And that's perfect for a Ponzi because they live on new money. New money has to come in to pay the old money. And we have a different project here. We're not a Ponzi.
Yeah, definitely. I think the YouTube advertising space is absolutely ridiculous. There's people that get, 15,000 views on a video but charge $20,000 for the video. And then, like you said, you don't even know if they're a fraudulent person themselves, creating the video, getting a bunch of hype, then selling at the top themselves, and then just kind of selling on their or dumping on their viewers. So there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to get into there on top of it being absurdly expensive. So I think that going the route that you guys just said, through AMAs and different banner ads is definitely the way to go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to get that pump if the team itself was looking to dump, but we're not.
Yeah.
So we're in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
Through this bear market into the next, bull market. We're trying to be here indefinitely.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I like that you guys have the long-term outlook for sure. And actually, speaking of that, what's kind of the end goal here? Like, are you just trying to incorporate as many projects as you can to the bridge, or you guys have more future plans and the roadmap laid out?
Yeah, there's really no end to this. What we want to do is, now the reason we don't have a clearly very specific roadmap laid out is because I think that's a hindrance to the project as a whole. What we're trying to do is identify places where there may be gaps or opportunities or utilities that don't exist or that aren't, fully available to the communities in the DeFi space, and then integrate with that using our bridge, in-house bridge, to our advantage. So by saying we're definitely doing this by this time, and if we then found a different opportunity and maybe switch gears a little bit, we can maybe piss off some people in the community saying, hey, you said you were doing this and now you're doing something else. So we do have some plans laid out. So the auto compounders is our current major one that's being released imminently. And then another place we're trying to go in the short term is the any to any token swap. And it's really then just adding on to these utilities. And with one of the visions of, let's say that a brand new chain comes online, there's no ecosystem on there. We could launch on that chain with this full suite of utilities and basically give that new chain a huge boost from day one, and also getting that early mover advantage on that new chain. And that's kind of the idea there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely like that. That's an interesting perspective that I haven't seen any projects share. That why have a roadmap when new opportunities could pop up left and right, and then you're essentially just limiting yourself if you're saying this is what we're doing. So I think that's really cool. You guys definitely have a different perspective than any of the other teams that I've talked to. So I like that. Kudos to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not trying to run on hype. We're trying to run on utility. And I think there's a very big difference between those.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there anything else that we haven't touched up on yet that you guys would like to talk about?
The paper, if any of the listeners, whoever's listening, sorry for you guys listening to the recording. If any of the listeners here want to jump into our Discord, talk to any of the mods in there. They'll give you some paper to test out the bridge if you want to try it out yourself. So if anybody's listening on the recording, yeah, go ahead, jump in the Discord, and maybe somebody will help you out.
Yeah, I just dropped the link to the Discord in the AMA questions channel. So if you guys want to join their Discord, one click of a button.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's it. Maybe just to reiterate that, first and foremost, this is a community project, so it is what we make it. So we as a community, we decide what happens, and it isn't a project where the devs are out for a quick buck, create some hype, dump the tokens, they're gone. We're in it from the long haul, for the long haul, and I think that's evidenced by this bear crash. We're still building. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, actually, one more question I had on that I like to ask this to a lot of different teams is, where do you guys benefit? Like from the team tokens, or is there like a recurring revenue that the team gets, or how does that work? And then how do we keep you guys motivated to keep building?
Yeah, we have a 10% allocation of the ink, and that's what that's vested linearly over 6 months per chain, and that's our revenue. Out of that, what we have been doing is we've been paying for advertising and different things, server costs, all of that, out of that as well. So a lot of that's actually been coming out of our pockets. Some of it, not even from that, just straight out of my pocket. But the vision here is long term. Everybody on the team has jobs. Like we're real people in the real world. So, this isn't what we need to eat on. Me personally, yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but I love to build things that people use. I volunteer on many other projects, just because I'd like to, outside of the crypto world, but I like to build things people use. That's what drives me. When this project succeeds, so when that's when I may get a nice payday, and I think that would be well deserved. But it's not at the expense of the project. It's not the intention.
Yeah, I like it. I think that definitely makes sense, and it is definitely important to note that you guys are, real people, got real jobs. This isn't like your last resort for trying to feed yourself or anything. So it's not like you could just have to bail out of nowhere. So definitely like that you guys are open and honest about that. I know a lot of people don't like to admit that they have another job, but I think that actually it makes sense because, you do have to pay the bills too. And if it's at the expense of the project, then that could potentially be a lot weighing down on the project that could be a make it or break it when it comes to the long-term success of it. So I definitely like your guys' direction and kind of vision with it all.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I think we're all used to those, 3 to 6 month lifetime projects.
Yep.
That kind of seems to be the status quo. Uh, we're going on, I think we're going on 5 months now, but we plan on being here for years and years. And we win when the project wins, and the project is the community.
Yeah, for sure. I like it. But yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. So thank you guys so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to hear about your project, and I'm excited to see where you guys go.
Thank you for having us. If you guys have any more questions, want to drop in, say hello, check out the Discord. We're always here. You guys can at me, at any of the team. We're not one of those projects where we have this moderator barrier between the team. So we're always around, always happy to answer questions. And I think we have a very great community that's cross-chain. So there's a lot of, just even outside of the project, there's a lot of discussion on, what things are on what chains or strategies people use outside of this for different areas. So yeah, come in, say hello.
Perfect. Well, yeah.
Yeah, Zach, you wanted to know where we're going. So we're going to CeeLo next, and then Metis is the chain after that. So we continuously expand chains. So I think it's important to follow our Twitter at least, or join our Discord to kind of stay up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, I will leave. Actually, I have a channel specifically for your guys' project with all the links. So if you guys do want to follow their Twitter and Discord to stay up to date on all the announcements, then you guys can go easily do that. But yeah, thank you again so much for coming on. It was great hearing from you guys. So
Yeah, thank you very much.